what we would like to turn to next, shifting to mainland China, and let's hear from Zhengwei how China is approaching AI regulation.
And thank you, Winnie. And AI has become a key part of the infrastructure of China's mainland China's digital economy, and that means the compliance in the application of AI technology is now important for corporate strategic planning. In the China's market, on the one hand, domestic AI solutions like DeepSeek are being widely adopted across business and daily life, including leveraging AI to enhance the quality of response to customers' inquiries, design marketing proposals. Additionally, some domestic internet giants like Tencent or ByteDance has deeply integrated AI into searches, social media, and e-commerce. Meanwhile, on the other hand, overseas AI tools like ChatGPT, which is nowadays is still blocked in mainland China, and other AI solutions entering China through so-called unofficial channels, with some users leveraging technical means to bypass the the Great Firewall. This triggers concern about the cross-border data flows and content compliance. And most recently, on March 7th, 2025, the China's Cyberspace Administration, CAC, together with three additional authorities, jointly released the measures for labeling of artificial intelligence generated content. We call it labeling measures, specifying the mandatory disclosure requirement for AI products, and the rule will take effect September 1st this year. And I would speak a bit about the logic of the Chinese legislator or regulators. China's regulation of AI has long been in development. Take AIGC as an example. In 2023, I was invited to participate in a legislative seminar on AIGC labeling, where the focus was on governance of disinformation and mitigation of social risk caused by AIGC's misuse. A few years later, like the beginning of this year, the thinking was embodied in the labeling measures. The regulation did not emerge suddenly. It followed extensive industry research and expert consultation, reflecting China's so-called uh, legislation first, progressive refinement, the logic of them. And alongside with some fundamental rules or measures, uh, relevant national standards also have been issued, collectively forming China's preliminary regulatory framework for artificial intelligence. Like I mentioned, the labeling measures under this rule, entities engaged in AIGC related activities are classified as either service provider or content disseminator, thereby incurring different legal obligations. While in practice, um, I would say more than half of the entities may simultaneously hold both roles. For example, a gaming company using their own AIGC products to publish and disseminate information within its game and player volumes acts acts the both roles. Given such, companies operating in China or they would like enter into Chinese market, uh, at least before this September, must identify their own roles as well as assess their AIGC vendors uh, uh, to for their business operations. And a little bit details about the labeling measures. Among us, the theory of compliance requirements stipulated in the measures, the most notable is established the dual labeling system, explicit labeling plus implicit labeling. Explicit labeling refers to the labels added to the text, audio, image, video, or virtual scenes that's readily accessible to the users and to avoid any public confusion or misidentification. Uh, but also the implicit labeling refers to the technical label embedded within the file data, which is not easily accessible to the users, but maybe readable for the engineers. The primary purpose here is to record information, including like content attribute information, service providers name or code, and content identification number, to facilitating the regulatory traceability and content management. But this at I would say still in a quite preliminary stage, and maybe we have now already seen some operational challenges. We can further elaborate these challenges in a later stage. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for the very insightful perspective on China's approach to AI regulation. Now let's turn to Australia. Mark, how is Australia approaching the regulation of AI? And what are the key challenges companies are facing down under?
Yep, thanks, Queenie. So the approach is almost a wait and see approach. The Australian government has been in the process of drafting legislation to regulate AI for about the last 12 to 18 months at least. I would say there's probably still at least another 6 to 12 months away from having something that they're willing to put forward to Parliament to then have adopted as legislation throughout Australia. And I think one of the big things is that while they're taking their time with introducing the legislation, they have actually been in consultation with Australian business quite a bit and stakeholders within the area. And what we're seeing at a business level or at a practical level is that much alignment with the EU is looking to be created. And the main reasoning behind that is that a lot of business in Australia will do business overseas with the EU or with China or with the US. And so therefore the businesses are looking and we're advising our clients to look towards the legislation that's in place in these jurisdictions and to adopt measures that are going to help them contract with companies and entities from those other jurisdictions overseas. And to that end, one of the big things that has been adopted in Australia is the AI management standard. And so it is one of 4 standards. So it's an equivalent to, I think, the European AI standard. And under the EU AI Act, there are 4 ways in which you can comply. And one of those is the equivalent to the AI management standard. And so Australian businesses are looking to adopt that standard. And while only one Australian business out of all the businesses in the country has actually been certified as receiving that ISO rating to this date, which commenced on 1 July last year. So it's been in operation for 12 months, but only one business really has been certified. A lot of the other businesses are looking at that management standard and not officially complying and getting the ISO rating, but they're actually implementing the procedures so that when the Australian government finally decides to legislate on this area, it's not going to be a big step for business and a costly implementation of new regimes and catch up so that they can comply with the legislation. But what will happen is that they will have an AI policy or internal procedures that make them compliant with the legislation. And to that end, some of them are adopting spreadsheets that look at what AI is being used, how it's being used, how it's being regulated and updated, who's the responsible person for looking after the use of AI in that corporation. And more often now, we're starting to get a lot of companies, which we're recommending as well when we speak to them, is to develop those internal AI policies and even take that next step and give an external AI policy to promote transparency. And one of the big pushes behind that is that Australian companies are thinking we can use this as a marketing tool, a marketing lever to say, yes, we use AI, but this is how we use it. We're going to be transparent. If we have your data, only certain data will be used by the AI. Other data will be kept secure and safe in other areas. The AI we're using is potentially one of 4 different levels, similar to what Zhengwei was talking about earlier when they were saying, the restrictions, and this is likely under the Australian legislation when it comes, will categorise AI into at least 4 different categories. So you'll have your first level AI, which might be your Microsoft Word AI, which predicts what you're going to type next in your sentence. And then the next one could be a step down where it's actually helping you respond or spot errors. And then, category 4 though, might be where AI acts independently of human oversight. And so at that level, it's expected there's going to be a very high degree of regulation because Australia is pushing towards the human oversight model for AI implementation.
Thank you. Thanks, Mark. And would any changes